My name is Alex Thompson, a seasoned wildlife photographer with a passion for capturing the untamed beauty of nature. My latest assignment brought me to the rugged landscapes of Red Rock Canyon in Nevada, a place known for its breathtaking vistas and rich Native American history. Little did I know, this journey would lead me to a chilling encounter with a creature that defied explanation: Skinwalker. Red Rock Canyon, with its towering sandstone peaks and vast desert expanses, has long been a place of mystery and legend. The local Paiute tribe speaks of skinwalkers, shape-shifting witches who can transform into animals and possess malevolent powers. These stories, often dismissed as mere folklore, had always fascinated me. However, I was about to discover that some legends are rooted in a terrifying reality. I arrived in Red Rock Canyon on a warm autumn day, the sun casting a golden glow over the landscape. My plan was to spend a week in the area, photographing the wildlife and capturing the stunning scenery. I set up my base camp near a secluded part of the canyon, a spot that offered both privacy and an unobstructed view of the surrounding terrain. The first few days were uneventful, filled with the usual challenges of wildlife photography. I captured images of desert bighorn sheep, red-tailed hawks, and the elusive kit fox. The nights, however, were eerily silent, the only sounds being the occasional rustle of the wind through the canyon and the distant call of a coyote. On the fourth night, as I was reviewing my photos by the campfire, I heard a strange noise. It was a low, guttural growl, unlike anything I had ever heard before. My first thought was that it could be a mountain lion, but the sound was different, more primal, more sinister. Grabbing my flashlight and camera, I cautiously ventured out to investigate. The moon cast an ethereal light over the canyon, creating long, ominous shadows. As I moved closer to the source of the noise, I noticed a set of tracks in the sand. They were large, almost human-like, but with elongated toes and deep claw marks. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed the tracks, each step bringing a growing sense of dread. The tracks led me to a narrow ravine, a place where the walls of the canyon closed in, creating a dark, claustrophobic passage. As I entered the ravine, the temperature seemed to drop, and an unsettling silence enveloped me. I scanned the area with my flashlight, my breath visible in the cold air. Suddenly, I saw it. A figure stood at the far end of the ravine, partially obscured by the shadows. It was tall and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to glow with an unnatural light. The creature's form shifted and contorted, its limbs elongating and contracting in a grotesque manner. My mind struggled to comprehend what I was seeing. This was no ordinary animal. Before I could react, the creature let out a bone-chilling scream. A sound that echoed through the canyon and sent a shiver down my spine. It began to move towards me, its gait unnatural and jerky, as if it was struggling to maintain its form. I stumbled back, my instincts screaming at me to run, but my legs felt like lead. In a desperate attempt to document the encounter, I raised my camera and snapped several photos. The flash seemed to momentarily startle the creature, giving me a chance to turn and flee. I ran through the ravine, my heart pounding, the creature's footsteps echoing behind me. I didn't stop until I reached my camp, my body trembling with fear and adrenaline. Back at camp, I barricaded myself inside my tent, clutching my camera like a lifeline. The sounds of the night seemed amplified, every rustle and creak sending waves of paranoia through me. Eventually, exhaustion overtook me, and I fell into a fitful sleep, plagued by nightmares of the creature. The next morning, I reviewed the photos on my camera. The images were blurry and distorted, but they clearly showed a tall, humanoid figure with elongated limbs and glowing eyes. I knew I had captured something extraordinary, something that defied logical explanation. Determined to learn more, I decided to seek out the wisdom of the local Paiute tribe. I traveled to a nearby reservation, where I met with an elder named Samuel Blackfoot. Samuel was a respected figure in the community, known for his deep knowledge of tribal history and legends. I showed him the photos and recounted my encounter, hoping he could shed some light on the creature I had seen. Samuel studied the photos carefully, his expression grave. "What you encountered was a skinwalker," he said, his voice low and serious. "They are powerful witches who can take the form of animals, but they are not to be trifled with. They are malevolent beings, capable of great harm." He went on to explain that skinwalkers were once human, but had chosen a dark path, gaining their powers through forbidden rituals and sacrifices. They could take the form of any animal they desired, but their true nature was always evident in their eyes, which glowed with an unnatural light. Samuel warned me that by encountering a skinwalker, I had attracted its attention, and it would not easily let me go. Determined to protect myself, I asked Samuel if there was any way to ward off the skinwalker. He provided me with a pouch of sacred herbs and a talisman, instructing me to keep them with me at all times. He also advised me to leave Red Rock Canyon immediately, as the skinwalker would likely return. Taking Samuel's advice to heart, I packed up my camp and left the canyon, my mind racing with thoughts of the encounter. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the skinwalker was lurking just out of sight, waiting for another opportunity to strike. Despite the fear and uncertainty, I knew that my encounter with the skinwalker was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, one that I had to share with the world. I wrote an article detailing my journey and the terrifying encounter, accompanied by the photos I had taken. The story garnered widespread attention, sparking debates and discussions about the existence of skinwalkers and other cryptids. For me, the encounter was a stark reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world, hidden in the shadows and lurking in the most unexpected places. The Skinwalker of Red Rock Canyon was not just a legend, it was a real, terrifying entity that defied explanation. As I continued my work as a wildlife photographer, I carried with me the memory of that eerie night, a testament to the unknown and the extraordinary encounters that await those who dare to venture into the wild. My name is Olivia Martinez, and I've spent my life studying Native American folklore and legends. As a cultural anthropologist, I've traveled to many remote regions, documenting stories and traditions that are often overlooked by mainstream academia. One such legend, the Skinwalker, has always fascinated me. Stories of these malevolent shapeshifters are prevalent among various tribes, particularly the Navajo. My journey took me to Black Mesa in Arizona, where I hope to uncover the truth behind these chilling tales. Black Mesa is a place steeped in history and mystery. The stark beauty of the desert landscape, with its towering rock formations and expansive vistas, hides a darker, more sinister side. The local Navajo community speaks of the Skinwalker in hushed tones, describing it as a witch who can transform into any animal it desires. These creatures are said to possess incredible speed, strength, and the ability to control minds. Intrigued by these accounts, I set out to learn more. I arrived at Black Mesa in late October, the weather cool and the skies clear. The community welcomed me, though there was an undeniable undercurrent of tension when I mentioned my interest in the Skinwalker legend. I met with the respected elder named Thomas Bege, who agreed to share what he knew, albeit reluctantly. Thomas spoke of the Skinwalkers with a mixture of fear and respect. He explained that they were once medicine men or witches who had turned to the dark arts, gaining their powers through unspeakable rituals. These beings could take the form of any animal, but their true nature was often betrayed by their eyes, which retained a human-like quality. Despite the warnings, I was determined to learn more. I convinced Thomas to take me to a remote part of Black Mesa, where sightings of skinwalkers were most frequent. We traveled by jeep, the rugged terrain making the journey slow and arduous. As we drove, Thomas shared more stories of encounters with these shapeshifters, each more chilling than the last. We reached our destination as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert. Thomas pointed out a secluded area where the ground was marked with strange, twisted tracks. He explained that this was a known Skinwalker trail, a place where the creatures were often seen moving between forms. I set up my equipment, hoping to capture any evidence of the skinwalkers. As night fell, the temperature dropped, and an eerie silence settled over the mesa. The only sounds were the distant howl of a coyote and the occasional rustle of wind through the scrub. I sat by the campfire, my camera ready, the darkness pressing in around me. Thomas sat nearby, his expression wary and alert. Hours passed with no sign of the skinwalker. Just as I was beginning to doubt the tales, we heard a sound that froze us in place. It was a low, guttural growl, followed by the unmistakable sound of something moving quickly through the brush. I grabbed my camera and flashlight, my heart pounding in my chest. We followed the noise, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, we saw a figure standing at the edge of the light. It was tall and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to glow with an unnatural light. The creature's form shifted and twisted, its limbs elongating and contracting in a grotesque manner. This was no ordinary animal, it was a skinwalker. The creature let out a bone-chilling scream, a sound that seemed to pierce the very soul. It began to move towards us, its gait jerky and unnatural, as if it was struggling to maintain its form. Thomas shouted something in Navajo, words I didn't understand, and the creature hesitated, its eyes locked on him. In that moment of hesitation, I snapped several photos, the flash momentarily startling the skinwalker. Seizing the opportunity, we turned and ran back to the jeep, the creature's footsteps echoing behind us. We didn't stop until we were safely inside the vehicle, the doors locked and the engine running. The drive back to the village was a blur of fear and adrenaline. Thomas remained silent, his face grim. When we finally reached the village, he turned to me and said, "You have seen the truth. The skinwalkers are real, but they are not to be trifled with. Leave this place, and do not return." Back in my hotel room, I reviewed the photos. The images were blurry and distorted, but they clearly showed a tall, humanoid figure with glowing eyes. I knew I had captured something extraordinary, something that defied logical explanation. I sent the photos to a colleague for analysis, hoping to gain some insight into the creature we had encountered. Over the next few days, I conducted more interviews with the local Navajo, gathering additional stories and accounts of skinwalker encounters. Each tale added another layer to the legend, painting a picture of a terrifying, malevolent force that lurked in the shadows of Black Mesa. As my time in Arizona came to an end, I couldn't shake the feeling that the skinwalker was still watching me, waiting for another opportunity to strike. Despite the fear, I knew that my encounter with the skinwalker was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, one that I had to share with the world. I wrote an article detailing my journey and the terrifying encounter, accompanied by the photos I had taken. The story garnered widespread attention, sparking debates and discussions about the existence of skinwalkers and other cryptids. For me, the encounter was a stark reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world, hidden in the shadows and lurking in the most unexpected places. The Skinwalker of Black Mesa was not just a legend, it was a real, terrifying entity that defied explanation. As I continued my work as a cultural anthropologist, I carried with me the memory of that eerie night, a testament to the unknown and the extraordinary encounters that await those who dare to venture into the wild. My name is David Evans, and I'm an experienced hiker and outdoor enthusiast. I've trekked through some of the most remote and rugged landscapes in North America. One summer, my adventures led me to the Shadow Valley in Utah, a place known for its breathtaking scenery and, as I would soon discover, its dark, hidden secrets. Shadow Valley is located near the Navajo Nation, and the area is steeped in Native American history and legend. Before setting out, I heard whispers about the Skinwalker shape-shifting witches said to possess dark powers. The Navajo people take these stories seriously, but as an outsider, was skeptical. That was about to change. I set off on my journey in early June, with the sun high and the sky clear. My plan was to spend 10 days hiking and camping in the valley, documenting the diverse flora and fauna. I had my trusted dog, Max, with me, a German shepherd who had accompanied me on many adventures. We were well prepared for the trip, carrying enough supplies to last us comfortably. The first few days were uneventful but enjoyable. The valley was a natural paradise, filled with towering pines, rushing streams, and wildlife. I captured stunning photos of deer, eagles, and even a rare glimpse of a bobcat. Each night, I would set up camp and relax by the fire, listening to the soothing sounds of nature. On the fourth night, things began to change. As the sun set and the shadows deepened, I felt a sense of unease. Max, usually calm and vigilant, was restless, growling at the darkness beyond our camp. I tried to reassure him, but he remained on edge, his ears perked and his eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. That night, I was jolted awake by a strange noise. It was a low, guttural growl, unlike any animal I had ever encountered. Max was standing at the edge of the camp, his fur bristling and his teeth bared. I grabbed my flashlight and shone it into the darkness, but saw nothing. The noise stopped as suddenly as it had begun, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The next morning, I found strange tracks around the camp. They were large and appeared to be human-like, but with elongated toes and deep claw marks. My heart raced as I recalled the stories of the Skinwalker. Could it be that these legends held some truth? I dismissed the thought and continued my hike, though a nagging sense of dread lingered. Over the next few days, the strange occurrences escalated. At night, I heard whispers and rustling sounds around my camp, as if something was watching me. Max's behavior grew increasingly erratic, and he would often stare into the distance, growling at nothing. One night, I saw a shadowy figure at the edge of the firelight. It was tall and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to glow with an unnatural light. I froze, my heart pounding, but when I blinked, the figure was gone. On the seventh day, I decided to cut my trip short. The sense of unease had become overwhelming, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being stalked. As I packed up my camp, I heard a loud, piercing scream that echoed through the valley. It was a sound that no human or animal should be able to make, a blood-curdling cry that sent chills down my spine. I hurriedly gathered my belongings and set off towards the nearest trailhead, Max by my side. The journey was slow and tense, with every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs putting me on edge. As night fell, I set up a makeshift camp, determined to make it out of the valley by morning. That night was the worst of all. I was awakened by a rustling sound, and saw Max staring intently into the darkness, growling. I grabbed my flashlight and camera, ready to document whatever was out there. Suddenly, the Skinwalker appeared at the edge of the camp, its form shifting and contorting in the dim light. It was tall and gaunt, with glowing eyes that pierced the darkness. I snapped several photos, the flash momentarily illuminating the creature. The Skinwalker let out another bone-chilling scream and began to move towards us. Its gait was unnatural and jerky, as if it was struggling to maintain its form. Max lunged at the creature, barking fiercely. I grabbed a burning log from the fire and waved it at the Skinwalker, hoping to drive it away. The creature hesitated, its eyes locked on the fire, before retreating into the darkness. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, my mind racing with fear and adrenaline. At the first light of dawn, I packed up and set off towards the trailhead. The journey was grueling, but I was driven by the need to escape the valley and the malevolent entity that lurked within it. When I finally reached the trailhead, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I contacted the local authorities and shared my story, though I could tell they were skeptical. I also sent the photos to a colleague who specialized in cryptozoology, hoping for some insight into what I had encountered. The photos, though blurry and distorted, clearly showed a tall, humanoid figure with glowing eyes. My colleague was intrigued and shared them with other experts, sparking debates and discussions about the existence of skinwalkers and other cryptids. For me, the encounter was a stark reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world. hidden in the shadows and lurking in the most unexpected places. As I reflected on my experience in Shadow Valley, I knew that my encounter with the Skinwalker was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, one that I had to share with the world. I wrote an article detailing my journey and the terrifying encounter, accompanied by the photos I had taken. The story garnered widespread attention, bringing the legend of the Skinwalker into the spotlight. Despite the fear and uncertainty, I continued my work as a hiker and outdoor enthusiast, always mindful of the unknown and the extraordinary encounters that await those who dare to venture into the wild. The Skinwalker of Shadow Valley was not just a legend, it was a real, terrifying entity that defied explanation, a testament to the mysteries that still remain in our world. My name is Jenna Whitefeather, and I was born and raised on a Navajo reservation in New Mexico. Growing up, I heard countless stories about the Skinwalker Seville witches that could transform into animals and wreak havoc on those who crossed their paths. These tales were part of our cultural fabric, a cautionary lore passed down through generations. I never believed them, chalking them up to superstition. That was until the night I encountered a Skinwalker myself. It was a hot July evening when I received a call from my cousin, Alex. He sounded frantic, his voice trembling with fear. "Jenna, you have to come over. Something's been stalking our sheep," he said. Alex lived on the outskirts of the reservation, where the land was more rugged and wild. I could hear the panic in his voice, and without hesitation I agreed to help. I arrived at Alex's place just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the desert landscape. His wife, Maria, greeted me at the door, her eyes wide with worry. "It's been happening for the past week," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "At night, we hear strange noises, and in the morning, we find our sheep mutilated." We sat in their small living room, the tension palpable. Alex explained that he had tried everything to protect his livestock, setting up traps, reinforcing the pen, even staying up all night with a rifle. But nothing worked. The attacks continued, and they were getting bolder. "Last night, I saw it," Alex said, his face pale. "It was no animal I've ever seen. It was tall, with glowing eyes, and it looked like it was wearing a coyote skin." My heart raced as I listened to Alex's story. The descriptions matched those of a Skinwalker, the shape-shifting witch of Navajo legend. Though I had always dismissed the tales, there was no denying the fear in my cousin's voice. "I'll stay the night," I said, my resolve firm. "We'll keep watch together." As the darkness enveloped the land, we took our positions near the sheep pen. The night was eerily quiet, the only sounds being the distant howl of coyotes and the occasional rustle of wind through the scrub. We sat in silence, our senses on high alert. Hours passed, and just as I was beginning to think the night would be uneventful, we heard a low, guttural growl coming from the edge of the property. We turned our flashlights towards the noise, and there it was. A tall figure, draped in what looked like a coyote pelt, stood just beyond the fence. Its eyes glowed an unnatural yellow, and it moved with a jerky, unsettling gait. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up as I realized we were facing a Skinwalker. Alex raised his rifle, his hands shaking. "Get away from here," he shouted, his voice trembling. The Skinwalker responded with a chilling scream, a sound that pierced the night and sent shivers down my spine. It began to move towards us, its form shifting and contorting in the dim light. I grabbed a burning log from the fire pit and waved it at the creature, hoping to drive it away. The Skinwalker hesitated, its eyes fixed on the flames. Taking advantage of the moment, I shouted in Navajo, reciting a protection chant my grandmother had taught me. The creature let out another scream, this one filled with rage, and then it retreated into the darkness. We spent the rest of the night in a state of heightened alertness, but the Skinwalker did not return. The following morning, we found more mutilated sheep, a grim reminder of the previous night's encounter. I knew we had to do something to protect Alex and his family from this malevolent entity. I decided to visit our community's medicine man, a wise elder named Mbembe. He lived in a secluded part of the reservation, surrounded by sage and juniper. Tom listened intently as I recounted our experience, his expression serious. "The Skinwalker is a powerful and dangerous being," he said. "It will not be easy to drive it away." Tom prepared a bundle of sacred herbs and a small pouch of corn pollen. "These will help protect you," he said, handing them to me. "Sprinkle the pollen around your cousin's property and burn the herbs each night. The Skinwalker fears the purity of these elements." He also gave me a small amulet, a piece of turquoise wrapped in leather. "This is for Alex. It will protect him from the Skinwalker's influence." I thanked Tom and returned to Alex's place with the supplies. We followed the elder's instructions meticulously, creating a protective barrier around the property. Each night, we burned the herbs and recited the protection chants, the scent of sage and juniper filling the air. For several nights, there were no signs of the Skinwalker. The sheep remained unharmed, and a sense of peace began to return. However, we knew that the creature was still out there, waiting for an opportunity to strike. On the 10th night, our vigilance was put to the test. As we sat by the fire, we heard the familiar growl. The Skinwalker had returned, but this time, it was not alone. Two other figures, draped in animal pelts, emerged from the shadows. My heart pounded as I realized we were facing a pack of Skinwalkers. We stood our ground, holding the burning herbs and chanting in Navajo. The Skinwalkers circled us, their eyes glowing with malevolence. I could feel the air grow colder, the darkness pressing in around us. Just as they were about to attack, a sudden gust of wind swept through the camp, scattering the herbs and breaking the protective barrier. The Skinwalkers lunged towards us, their forms shifting and contorting. I grabbed the amulet Tom had given me and held it up, shouting the protection chant with all my might. The turquoise glowed with a bright, blue light, and the Skinwalkers recoiled, their screams echoing through the night. The creatures retreated, their forms dissolving into the darkness. The air grew still, and the temperature returned to normal. We stood there, shaken but unharmed, the amulet still glowing faintly in my hand. In the days that followed, there were no more attacks. The protective measures seemed to have worked, and the Skinwalkers were driven away. Alex and his family were safe, and the sheep were no longer in danger. The encounter with the Skinwalkers changed my perspective on the legends I had grown up with. What I once dismissed as superstition now understood to be a part of a deeper, more complex reality. The experience strengthened my bond with my heritage and the wisdom of our ancestors. I documented the encounter, sharing it with the wider community and those interested in Navajo folklore. The story garnered attention, bringing the legend of the Skinwalker to a broader audience. It served as a reminder of the mysteries that still exist in our world, hidden in the shadows and waiting to be discovered. As I continued my life on the reservation, I carried with me the memory of that terrifying night and the lessons it taught me. The Skinwalker was not just a legend, it was a real, malevolent force that demanded respect and caution. And though the danger had passed, I knew that the shadows of the desert still held many secrets, waiting for those brave enough to uncover them.